Welcome to the Reclaim podcast. In this episode, we welcome 2 times Australian Muay Thai champion and 1 champion athlete Jordan, the Wolf Godfredsen. With a 20-year career in the sport, Jordan has amassed 33 victories in 44 professional fights and has consistently been ranked in the top 10 fighters in the world. Jordan shares his journey, the highs and lows, and the importance of cultivating a positive mindset which incorporates resilience, fortitude, humility, determination, and commitment.
I'm pleased to welcome Jordan. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I know you've had a busy couple of weeks, so really appreciate you setting aside time to come and chat to us today.
No, well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
You've just got back from Thailand, and we'll get into that a little later on in the chat, but you just had a fight in Thailand, international fight. And actually, your fight was the main event on that card. So let's scale that right back to the beginning. When did this all start?
Well, I started back in 2005, so I would have been about 13, just before my 14th birthday. So in high school, first year of high school, obviously you meet a lot of new friends in your first year of high school because all the primary schools link up together in one location, and made friends with one of my best mates now, Daniel Williams. And he was training, he's half Thai, so he's half Australian, half Thai, and invited me down to this gym in Canning Vale. So he had an older brother, and I grew up with a bunch of kids that were older than me in my area as well, a couple of years. So they were already in high school, year 10, we were coming into year 8, and they were actually training there as well. So it was just like another sort of connection to starting in the gym. And went down there back in 2005, and I'm still at that gym now, so almost...
At the same gym?
Yeah, almost 20 years later. Yeah.
Incredible. So it was just because your mates were training there? That's what drew you to the sport?
Yeah, just wanted to try something different. I played ball sports growing up.
Yeah.
I played soccer for many years, and then I wanted to do the AFL thing and do tackling, but my mum didn't like me the idea of it growing up. And once I hit high school, I want to do what I want to do. She gave me that freedom to give it a go, and I liked the AFL, but I didn't have a good kick, so I was too young into the sport. I'd already played soccer for so long, but I could read the play well, I could tackle well and all that sort of stuff. And then I think I liked the tackling, and I was like, what's after tackling? Let's maybe try some boxing or some combat sports. And then Muay Thai just happened to pop up, and I fell in love with the sport. And
what was it about the sport that made you feel?
Just how hard it was, and just all the different aspects of things that were just calibrated into the one sport. Like obviously ball sports, you got just ball sport techniques and running, and maybe a little bit of fitness stuff, maybe a few drills and that. But with the Muay Thai, it was like learning how to skip, long runs, learning how to punch, learning footwork, and then it's Muay Thai, it's not just boxing, so it's kicking, it's kneeing, it's elbowing, and then the next stage is like things like the clinch, which is very specific only to Muay Thai. So it was just like a whirlwind of so much new activity and things to learn and challenges, and it just, enticed me to want to stay. And I grew up, like I mentioned, with a lot of older kids, and back then it was like WWE, I was a young kid, they used to love following me around, they'd have mattresses in the room and we'd all battle it out and all that sort of stuff. So I always sort of had fun on that competitive, combat sort of stuff, just being a young boy, and growing up. So once I found the Muay Thai and just how sharp it was and how refined and how hard it was. And I'd done the karate like 1 or 2 classes when I was really, really young, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like how we all just stood there and were told what to do, and like just striking the air a couple of times. It wasn't for me, and I didn't really feel like I did much those couple of times I went. I didn't really feel like I was tired or anything, but going to my second Muay Thai classes, it was just like I never trained so hard in my life. I felt so hard to kick the pads, like it felt so hard just to be picked on everything, like you have to keep your guard right, now your feet are wrong, now you're not stepping right, now your kick's not coming in the right place, now you're just tweaking everything. It's just like, wow. And I had a really good first coach, so it was just something so different and something that I was doing with friends as well, so it was just motivating for us all to finish school and then go to the gym together.
And at that kind of age, I can imagine there was a certain amount of confidence that came along with that.
Yeah, with time, definitely.
Kids that age, that 13 to, let's say, throughout your teens, is quite a critical time for guys in particular in terms of finding our identity and where we fit in. But that purpose, so that teen to mid-teens, it's crucial to carve out some kind of sense of belonging and, like I talked about, the confidence, kind of self-confidence and sense of purpose.
Learning discipline. All those sorts of things,
Absolutely.
And you're still sort of, like you said, you're finding out who you are at that stage. There's still there's so many new things happening. You're growing, your interests are changing, your friends are changing. a lot of pressure with studies or what you want to do, what you want to be. Like some parents can be like that, but then you got lots of different influences as well, don't you?
You do. You know, just recently there was an incident of this kid was shot, and he was young, very young. I think he's 16.
I'm from the area as well.
You're from that area?
Originally, yeah.
Now, yes, there was some extremist rhetoric before he did what he did, but they've ruled out any kind of terrorism motivation. To me, from what I know, and I don't want to speculate on the whole thing, just from the bit that I know, that it just seems like a kid that was completely lost and confused and just had no...
He's only 16 years old.
He was only 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was self-radicalised. I mean, he just gone on the internet. And these extremists are very clever in the way they recruit their followers. You know, they target young guys that feel disenfranchised and feel disempowered and all that kind of stuff, and said, look, we can offer you a purpose. And he bought into that, as many people do. So that's why I say young kids finding something that actually truly empowers them. Like, it doesn't have to be a combat sport, but, just some sense of
purpose, motivation, goals. You need to be goal-orientated.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, you know.
Yeah.
If you're just floating through life and not knowing what you want to do or what you want to be, or you don't always know what you want to be, you know. You don't always know what you want to do, but just to have... And that will change for sure, 100%, but... having small goals, you know, small things, keeping it small, you know, and still, if you're still trying to discover like what you like, what you may want to do for a career, still doing the right things, do things that are going to be positive in your life towards anything that you want to do, you know, whether it's staying healthy, having a good group of friends, trying at school, you know, trying not to get in trouble versus the opposite, where you're just rebelling, not trying to school, hanging out with idiots, you know,
exactly.
drugs, whatever it might be. You know, you might not know where you're going or what you want to do, but making the right choices towards the right is always going to get you on the right path. Because if you start going the opposite way, your mental health's going to suffer. You're not going to have many opportunities. You're going to be enticed to do the wrong things.
Absolutely.
With the wrong people. And I think a lot of that stems from your health, you know. If you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're not exercising, you're not going to feel good.
Exactly. And it amplifies outwards. So if you start with positive vibes, if you like.
Yeah, internally.
Internally.
And positive choices, you know.
Positive choices, positive habits, that kind of stuff. It just amplifies. Just moving forward, like, where in your journey did you decide to have your first fight, or was it a...
It was quick. It was pretty quick. Yeah, we had, like I mentioned, a couple of the older boys at my gym were there first, I'd grown up with, and Sean Kennedy and Alex James and Hayden Williams, which was my friend Daniel Williams' older brother. So they were the first ones to have fights. They'd already trained a couple of years. We come in and they've had their first 1 or 2 fights. And I remember just going to the show and going, this is absolutely crazy. I think I would have been 14, maybe 13, and just seeing like these guys just go at it. And it was all adults and stuff. There was very little amount of kids at the time in the sport. It was just adults, you know, and not many women either. And I remember just seeing like people coming back from the ring towards the change room. I remember being at a venue here in Perth, and fighters had to walk past where I was sitting, and I just seen the state of them, you know, split shins, big cuts on the face, guys knocked out, guys getting carried out, you know, guys like cheering because they'd won, high-fiving mates, people walking back getting a pat on the back, you know. It was just like, I was like, this is just wild. And then we remembered how nervous I was for my friend who fought, and he won, and it was just like a big rush of adrenaline and all like that excitement for them, you know. So coming back to the gym after seeing that was just like, wow, that's insane. But at the time, I was like, far out. I don't think I can ever do this, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm only 13. I'm only 12 years old. You know, I'm enjoying training. Maybe I'll do that one day, but wow, what an experience. And then I got to about 14, so I was 2 years in. I got the opportunity, like they offered, like, hey, we can get you a demonstration fight. So it's not on your record. It's in pads at the end. Both people's hands get raised, and it's a draw, essentially. You know, there was no way my mom and dad were going to let me do it at the time. There was no freaking way. Yeah. So I actually ended up doing it without them knowing and getting my...
Is that right?
I then coached to sign my under 18 waiver. And I remember getting to the weigh-in, and it was like, I was very, very skinny, like shorter boy, and I was like, I think the first fight was at like 55 kilos or something, and the other boy coming at like 61. He was a lot bigger than I was, and we were just like, I remember walking in, and then we were at the change room, and that was actually the first time I met my full-time gym owner / coach, Darren Kurovic. I was training under someone named Grant Wilkie at the time. He was running the gym. Darren was unwell, so he wasn't involved, and the gym was quite quiet at the time. It was just him and running this kids class, this teenage class. So I actually met Darren in the change room. He was there. He's like, I'm going to walk you to the ring. My name's Darren. And so I remember walking to the ring. They like oiled me up in all the Thai oil. I'm like 14 years old. I'm the first fight on the card. So I'm the one opening the show as well. And I remember I got oil in my eyes and in my armpits. And it was the first time I'd ever had Thai oil on. And I'm just on fire. I can't get it out my eyes. I'm bloody blind. So we walked to the ring. Like, the music starts. It wasn't even my music. It was just some music for the first fight. It's like, we're going. Let's go. Put your hand on my shoulder and I'll guide you to the ring. So I walked blind to the ring for my first fight. Got into the ring and my opponent came in a lot taller than I was. He was a lot taller, but he was another 16-year-old boy or something, 14 versus 16. And then we had a fight, and I did really well. That was my first experience fighting, and I loved it. And then we were off from there.
I can imagine that boost that you got after that fight.
Yeah, it was big. It was big for me at that time, like being a little kid, and all we had was the sock shin pads and the gloves. Where now it's like they start with headgear. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. You start with headgear, chest plates, elbow pads, shin pads, and gloves. Like it's a full system now. There's Combat Sports Commission of Western Australia that runs everything. You have to do blood tests. You have full medicals yearly, blood tests every 6 months. There's age groups where you can only fight within, and weight groups and experience, where before it was just weight. Like you fight at your weight and the coaches negotiate. If someone's had way more fights but the other one wants to fight, that's fine. But now it goes through a system. I think I had 3 fights for shin pads, and then I was bare shin and elbows by my 4th fight at 16 years old. And we were fighting adult internationals at that stage back in the early 2010s.
Crazy.
So sports changed a lot. Like it has really changed a lot.
Much more regulated
it's
now.
Much more regulated, which is good. And it also has changed the crowd of the sport and allowed the sport to grow, because it's not just guys beating each other up just in a violence with just, it was a lot of a different sort of attitude, and it was looked upon differently as combat sports was back then. Now it's like more family orientated, because people know that kids are going to be matched well and they're only fighting pads. They're going to give the kids a go, they're probably sparring in the gym with just shin pads and doing well. They're going to have a fight, but going to be never been more protected in their life. And the ref is really onto it. Like if there's a mismatch and someone's copping too much, he'll give it a count like really quick. If someone's getting overwhelmed, that's it.
You touched on something before, which I've noticed change in the sport as well. You said in the early days there were maybe 2 or 3 female fights on the card. And that's completely changed now.
They have female-only shows now.
Yeah.
They're
great fights.
And they're great. They are great
really
fights. Yeah, and that's the thing, because it has grown so much, the level of the technique and the athletes has just gone through the roof. Like you see these kids these days, and they're just so sharp. Perfect technique from really young age.
Well, from the fights that I've seen, a lot of the Aussie guys tend to be drawn towards the more Dutch style as well.
A bit more hands, low kick. Some are, but in saying that, we do have a really very strong Thai style group of fighters throughout the country, where it's like you got shows like Rebellion, where it's like they pride themselves on being 100% Muay Thai. It's like you fight 5 rounds, knees and elbows to the head, clinch, and we expect a high level of Muay Thai. And if to get on the show, the promoter's looking at your previous fights, and if you don't fit that style, and if you're not showing good technique and all the rest of it, then you're not going to get an opportunity.
So from that first fight and into your 20s, let's say, was the motivation always there to get better, or was there days where you're like, geez, I
was pretty motivated in my teens.
Yeah.
I was still in school, still hanging out with friends, but there was a big period where I wasn't going out and partying and drinking with them and stuff like that. Like I was just in the gym after school. And like I said, I had a few friends that joined me. Some would come and then not come back, and some would stay for a couple of years and then leave. But I always had like a few that were always there with me like throughout the whole journey, like Daniel and his brother and all the mates and stuff, like my own brother at the time as well. And we're all just fighting back to back for our whole teenage years, really. I think I had at least 10 by the time I was 18. But again, it was harder to get matches back then, being young, lower weight. So you'd be lucky to have 1 or 2 fights a year.
So in that 10
were probably over a 3-year period or something,
So in that 3-year period, were there losses?
I won my first 9, and then I lost my 10th.
How did you feel? How did that go?
That was hard, but I didn't deserve to win that fight either, because I wasn't doing the right thing. So it was a very good lesson, that one. It was against a guy named Roy Wells, who's really well-known guy in Western Australia and Australian Muay Thai. Really strong guy from Blair Smith's gym, The Pit, and he's now retired for a couple of years, and he's the main head coach there. So he's doing really, really good things. Yeah. We fought for a state title, and to be completely honest, I wasn't on his level when we took that fight. He'd been training with Toby since he was like really young. He was super strong. Like the power level between me and him was very far between. I remember he was fighting like adults, and he'd won a 4-man tournament just before I'd even got matched with him, and I knew I was in for a hard fight. And I think when I fought him, I'd actually just left high school, and I was doing concreting. So I was pushing barrows, and it was summer, and I'd previously come back from a broken hand, and it wasn't 100%. And to be completely honest with you, I wasn't doing the right things in the gym. Like, I wasn't showing up properly. I was working and not wanting to go after work in summer, and just doing the wrong things as well. Yeah, for that one, it was obviously hard to take your first loss, and it was for a title and all those things, that sort of things, but I didn't deserve to win. And I think I knew that as well. And I remember being in the change room and just hearing him crack the pads, and he used to kick so fucking hard. He still does. And like, I don't know if you've seen Blair, like, he makes a lot of noise, like he's barking and screaming while he's on the pad. So it was very intimidating, like, especially for like a 17-year-old boy.
Of course.
Of course, yeah. Something similar happened. I had a break, and then something similar happened again, where I got in the ring again and I wasn't doing the right things. I wasn't prepared well, and something similar very much happened with the loss. And I took a step away from the sport for a couple of years. And I was and I was like, I don't know if... And I got a blasting as well by my coach, Darren, at the time, because he knew I wasn't doing the right stuff.
Right.
And he was just, gave me a big lashing in the change room in front of a few people, and it was like, it was well deserved, So if you're not going to do the right thing, don't fucking come back, because you're not putting in the effort, and this is the result that happened. So like, probably a little bit ashamed at the time, I took some time away, and again, wasn't really doing the right thing, hanging around with the wrong people.
Yep.
Honestly, you're getting involved with drugs and all sorts of things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And I put on a bunch of weight as well.
Right.
So I chubbed out a bit, and things weren't looking good. I was like 19, 20, and I was in that part of my life where I was like, I'd finished school. I was doing a job that I wasn't really liking, but it was paying good enough money. I didn't really have any other purpose. I was just working and hanging out with friends and doing the wrong thing, really. And it got to that point where I actually had a few scares where I'd seen things happen to friends and people that were close to me that weren't nice, and it wasn't good to see. And I knew if I didn't change what I was doing, I was going to go down that path too. So it got to the point where I was like, what has always been a positive part of my life that I'm not doing right now? And it was Muay Thai. So I went back to the gym, and it started with me going. I didn't have a license at the time. I was living really far away, so I was in Wilson, living off Manning Road. Yep. The gym was in Canning Vale, and at that time, I was working a couple of days a week, and I had a few days to myself. So the days that I wasn't working, I would ride from Manning Road all the way to Canning Vale, which was like a big ride. And then I would do my 5K run when I got there, and then we'd do my training, and then I'd ride back. And I did that for about 6 months, and I lost all that weight that I'd put on. And while I was doing that, we had a new Thai trainer that came as well, which was really, really motivating, which was Jack, who's a superstar at the time. Superstar Thai. He was beating everyone. Very flashy, very beautiful technique. Had cartwheel kicks. He was just knocking people out. He was beating guys that were unbeaten in Australia, and then he come as a coach, and I was like, I definitely got to be back for this guy to be with us, And the gym was really, really quiet, so I had a lot of one-on-one time with him. And then during those times, it was like, all right, you're fit now. And he really sharpened me in my technique, and he trained me really hard, Thai style. Yeah. Give me a hiding. He was good, He was really good, And before, we trained really hard as well. It was like really old school Thai style, but with like Darren's Western flair on it as well. He just had us doing drills. We dragged tyres. We always dragged tyres, and every week hill sprints with tyres, big laps, piggybacks up hills, all sorts of hard stuff, in the rain, it didn't matter, for years and years and years. And then we had Jack come in, who had the different sort of style change and really refine things. And that was where I was like, all right, now I'm fit again. I'm still working and doing what I'm doing. But then we had opportunity for an interstate fight in Cairns. So I took this fight in Cairns, and then it was just like, I'm back on this, I'm loving this. Yeah. And I just went full steam again.
So that spark was again.
And that was
how good that you had that awareness, though, that to say, lucky, okay, man. What's missing? You know?
And that's what was just like, I'm not happy. And I was seeing some of my friends were still training, and I was getting unfit, and I'm like getting chubby, and I was like, nah, this isn't right. And like I said, I was doing the wrong thing in many different areas. I won't go into too much detail, but I was just like, if they keep doing what I'm doing, my life's not going to be. There's something. It's just a matter of time before something happens, and I'm in trouble, or I'm hurt, or worse, dead. So
exactly, and that awareness is everything. Because like we said, it's so easy to fall into the wrong pattern.
For sure.
And you just get lost in it, in that spiral. Very lucky that you have that realization. That awareness to start with.
And then there's that purpose again, all that focus. And then all of a sudden it's like, I want to get fit. And then that's the thing I love about Muay Thai as well. it's not just what you're doing in the gym, it's everything that comes into your life from it. You know, it's like eating well, your discipline, you're wanting to recover, so you're resting, you don't want to put shit in your body because you don't want to feel, you want to recover and you know, be able to perform, so you're not drinking, you're not doing drugs, you're not doing any these things that are negative.
Yeah,
you know?
And one thing leads to the next.
And you always focus on what you're coming up to, so and that sort of just trickles into your everyday life, you know, that discipline comes into your work life, into your home. You know?
So is that what you found happen? Let's say you're not preparing for a fight and you're not in fight camp or whatever, and did you sustain that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, for me, it's like one of my biggest tips for people is you got to find a diet that you love. You know, you got to find a diet that you like eating. You got to enjoy the food you eat. You know, if you have a diet that you're doing just to be losing weight and look good, but you're not enjoying it, it's not going to stick, and you're not going to be happy doing it, and you're going to just be miserable all the time. So you want to be able to eat food that you got to find something that you like to eat and look after yourself, find good supplements and stuff like that. And like I said, I enjoy training. So even when I'm not in a fight camp, like when we had the COVID lockdowns for 3 years, like I continue training, like, and now
you did?
And now that I'm retiring, I'll continue to train. You know, so I enjoy training, and it's more fun when you're not in a fight camp. Yes, to answer your question, like I do like to keep that routine, and I think that's really important. Is finding routine. You know, you can want to be disciplined and you can want to do the right thing, but if you don't have a path to it, it's hard to follow. You know, it's really easy to go, oh, what am I going to eat today? What's easy? What do I actually feel like? You know, shit half the time, or something a bit, you know, carbier or a bit too much fat or too much sugar or sodium, you know. So if you've got a path and you've got a routine, you know, like Monday to Friday I'm eating this sort of stuff, and maybe on the weekend I give myself a treat or whatever it might be, like you got a proper routine, then it's a lot easier to stick to that. Or I train on these days here and I train on these days there, or I rest here, or go to the sauna or get massage or whatever it is.
To have that structure.
Structure is important.
Very important, One thing I really do love about the sport, that it's you know, so steeped in tradition, particularly the Thai fighters, or the Thai styles, is that the guys, even when they lose a fight, they're very gracious and respectful in that loss. And
Well, what else are you gonna do?
What else are you gonna do?
You know, like, are you gonna be a dickhead about it? No one wants to say that. And it's a reflection on yourself, I think, as well, you know.
Absolutely,
So always be respectful, like humble in victory and defeat, you know, because it's just two guys going in there trying to do their thing, guys or girls, you know. There shouldn't be any animosity. It should be competitiveness, you know. But not animosity and
no, even if it's your fiercest rival, there's that competitiveness.
And you have to respect them, because without them, you wouldn't even be in there.
Correct.
You know, you gotta have someone to go in there with. So you gotta respect them and respect that they're willing to take the risk to go in there with you. And even though they're coming to take your head off, you know, it's a funny little aspect. It's a respect. It shouldn't really be you versus them. I think it should be you versus you. You know, you're in there trying to.
That's a very good.
Trying to show yourself, like you're trying to challenge yourself. You're trying to show what you can do. Show what you can overcome. Prove to your friends and family or yourself what you've done or what you can do. You know, while you're there. If you're in there going, I just want to smash this guy because I don't like his head and I want to show him the best. When you lose, you can't hack it. You can't wear it.
It's going to mess with you mentally. That loss.
Or some people are so arrogant, it doesn't mess with them, and they make excuses for that loss. Oh no, he hit me after the bell. I wasn't feeling right for that fight. I was too heavy. I was too light. Or whatever it might be, you know, you just got to and that was the thing with me, is like you can't make excuses. Like if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it, you know. And win, lose, draw, whatever happens, you know, you just got to wear that, and you learn from it, and you learn more from a loss than you ever will win, you know. So I've heard people say like your losses are in life, not just in sport, but it can be like blessings, because you can overcome so much stuff, you know. You really learn about yourself in those moments as well.
Exactly. And like you said, the guys that have the attitude of, like, you know, they're always external blame, that I didn't get the result because external factors, you know, they would carry that into
their
life in general as well. I said, I didn't get that job because X, Y, and Z. Whereas rather internalise it or learn from it.
Learn from it, at least. Everyone's going to have things. And that's the thing. Everyone's going to have things that are going on. Like, as long as you know you've prepared for whatever you're doing, you know, you put your 100% effort into something and you've tried your best. That's all you can do. It's when you don't put in that effort. And you don't try your best, and you know you could have done better. That's when it hurts. You know. But when you know you've physically tried your best and you've done everything you bloody could have, and maybe you still come short, what can you do about it? You've at least lived to have dared to try than to have lived to not have tried at all. You know. Again,
like we said before, everything starts internally. You know, you can have the most dedicated, the best coaches, and the best corner on the fight. But
you can be the most prepared human on the planet. You got to go in there as confident and prepared as you can, and then it's up to you and up to fate.
So your last fight, your most recent fight,
Yep.
we touched on at the start of the conversation, that was in Bangkok.
Yeah, so I was only in Bangkok for the week. So I
Okay,
did my whole
yep.
camp here in Perth, and then I ended up just at a gym that I normally go to called St. Morica in Bangkok.
Yep.
Just for my last 2-3 training sessions.
Sure thing.
And
Yep.
then I had a couple of like media obligations and medicals, and then I fought on the Friday and then came back on the Sunday.
On the Sunday, yeah. So being the main event, did you feel extra pressure
Probably not, to be honest. Like, I've been main event a lot in my career. Like, the majority of my fights in the last 10 years have been a main event fight,
Yeah.
so it was pretty much the same sort of thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
really change. I had to do extra media obligations and interviews and stuff.
Right.
I actually became main event 3 days before the fight, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden I was on the poster, and then I was on the stadium billboard, you know. So
But that didn't change.
no, it's just the fight's a fight. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a very switched on with that sort of attitude, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just I'm focused about what the task at hand, which is just me and another man fighting, and before that it's making weight and passing hydration, all those sort of things.
Yeah.
But I was excited as well at the same time, because
Yeah.
I was very honoured, and it was a great opportunity. Like, it's a Lumpini Stadium, like the mecca of Muay Thai
Yeah.
in the world, in Thailand, main event, you know. I won championship, which is pretty much the biggest promotion in the world at the moment. Yeah, I was honoured. I was excited.
Absolutely.
And then I quickly recentered to what I needed to be focusing on.
Did you go into the fight knowing that it could be potentially your last, or were you?
Yeah, I was. It was so. So my sort of little journey has been. It's been long. So I've fought for almost 17 years.
Yeah.
That was my 44th fight professionally. Obviously, we've just come out of sort of the COVID period, haven't we, where things had stopped for a little while.
Yeah.
So I've had before COVID, I had a back injury. I herniated my L5-S1 disc, and I was getting a lot of bad treatment from different physios and getting misdiagnosed, and I was really in a lot of pain. I was almost a cripple for about 6 months, and I didn't know how it was going to end from there, like whether I was going to come back to sport at all. Like, I just wanted to be able to put my shoes on. Like, I was that much
Wow.
pain. I was really, really in discomfort. And they wanted to do like a microdiscoscopy on me at one stage. I was only like 22 or something, so it's like, I don't want spinal surgery in my early 20s. And I tried to look around and did research. Obviously, I knew a bit about the human body, but I didn't really know how to fix a herniated disc in my back, so I didn't know really what I was up against. And luckily, I ended up working with a really good physio who managed to get me back to full health, and then I was back in the sport, and we were off. So I thought that was it for me then, many years ago. So everything past then, it's just been like, all right, this is the blessing, let's just go with it and full send it, you know. And then I had a really good run, and then obviously the COVID lockdown sort of come on, and just before the first lockdown, I was matched to fight for the WBC world title. I worked my way up through the world rankings into the top 20 of the world, into the top 10, into the top 6, into the top 4, and the then champion at the time, Sean Clancy from Ireland, we got matched, and it was at Optus Stadium here in Perth. Fight week, Wednesday, before the Friday weigh-in, Saturday fight, was the first COVID lockdown. So everyone went down,
Just weird, yeah.
and then I didn't fight for 3 years, or 2.5 years. So I went from being 3 days out to weigh-in, ready to fight for the world title, to
So where?
we don't know what's going on, and obviously everything that followed with that, you know.
Yeah. So where does that put you mentally? Like when you have that kind of disappointment?
I was pissed off. I actually ended up, they tried to do everything. So obviously it was this first lockdown, and it was like different things came on at different stages, like in the 3-day period. It was like, you can only have a capacity of this. So it was like, all right, we can have a small show and the fight will go on. And it was like, now we're not letting internationals fight. It's like, all right, now your fight's definitely cancelled, but we might be able to get you someone else so you can still fight if you want. I was like, all right, let's get someone. And I was actually matched with a Thai named Singh Payak, which is like, he's a serious Thai. He ended up from Sydney. He ended up saying he'd taken on 2 days' notice. I'd fought him previously and lost on points, so it was a good fight to make.
Yeah.
Really good fight. So I was like, whatever, I just want to fight. We'll get Sean when next month, 2 months when comes back. Little did I know. Then all of a sudden it was like, nah, can't have any crowds. We've got to have like, all right, we're going to have a show for you anyways. We're going to have a closed venue, and we're going to live stream it in all these little pubs around Perth, and we're going to keep it going. And then it just got too hard, and they're like, no, we've got to shut this down.
We're going to shut it down.
Then the seriousness of the situation came in, and obviously things were closed for a long time. So that period, like, how do I stay motivated? I just, as it went further and it looked more shit, I was just like, this is probably me. Like, this is probably it now. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back to fight. Like, because I can't get anyone nationally. I'm only fighting internationals really at this stage. Even interstate was, I didn't have many opponents, if any, and I wasn't vaccinated, so I wasn't even allowed to travel once things started to settle down. I had another 8 fights. I won a second Australian title, won another international title. Yeah, fought interstate, and I got to fight on one championship in Bangkok twice. So, like, to answer your question, did I know that was my last fight? No, I didn't know it was, but I was treating it like it very well could be, you know. And I'm at that stage now in my life. I've had my son since then, so I've got a 10-month-old boy as well now. Yeah. I work full time. Yeah. I've never been a full-time athlete, so I work full time. I'm a father of 2, and then I also train and fight professionally, you know. So it's a lot of hats to wear, and it's a lot to balance. So I've just been and I'm very fortunate to have such a supportive partner as well, because if I didn't have that, then there's no way any of this would have worked. After the COVID lockdown, and obviously losing that world title opportunity, the world title changed hands, went to an Englishman, and that was my next motivation, was to fight him. So I was like, all right, let's see how we go. I'm still in the top 10 3 years later in the world, you know, and I was looking at this guy, Nathan Benden, and I was like, all right, he's the champ, that's the guy I want to fight. I deserve the opportunity. And then he ended up vacating the title. I don't know what happened there. And that's the same thing that happened with the Irishman. He vacated it. So I was like, what's going on here? The guys aren't even defending it. No one wants to hold the belt, and I just want to fight the champion, you know what I mean? That was my mentality. I want to win that, I want to hold it, and I want to defend it. You know, that's what I want to do. And in the plot twist, another Aussie ended up getting the opportunity before me, and he ended up winning it. So they ended up having a couple more fights, a couple more really good wins, and then I made it very vocal that I wanted that fight with the other boy, Chad Collins, the Aussie, and eventually got the match. So that's where we were at. So I fought him at the end of last year. I didn't win, so I didn't end up going the way I liked it to. But at least I had that opportunity. At least I knew what if, you know. And I didn't just quit. But I'm grateful I had that opportunity. Absolutely. So after that was like, what else do I want to do? You know, I've done everything I want to do. I think I've taken it as far as I can as a young man, you know, and I've got other motivations in my life too now. So I'm weighing that up. Like, I've got young kids. I really want to be there for them. Like, that time's precious. Like we said before, you don't get that time back, you know, and I love being a dad. So I've sacrificed a lot, you know, for my own time. Friends that maybe grown distant from because I haven't been around, things like that as well. So there's a lot of things to weigh up. So after the Chad fight, I was like, all right, I'm not going to end like that. I want to have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, maybe more, but I want it to be worth it. I want it to be a fight that excites me, and I'm going to treat each one like it's my last, and I'm just going to go out all guns blazing, you know? And that's where we were at with one championship, so that opportunity come through, and I was like, let's fucking do it.
So when you made the announcement, I think you left a bit of a window ajar. I think you said definitely no international fights anymore, but I think you left a bit of room to move for maybe
one
more national or
something, one more in Perth or something. I did say that. So I fucking hate it when people are like, I'm retired, and then they come back.
And then they come back.
I'm never going to be that guy. Like, when I say that's it, you know. Unless you're coming at me with something stupid like 6 digits or something silly, you know. To fly to Dubai to fight on some crazy show. Give me a call. But it's got to be worth it, man. And there's no money in Muay Thai. Like, and the risk now is at this stage is like, because I work full time. When I was at one championship, like just last week or 2 weeks ago, mate, if you watched that card, every fight almost was a first round knockout, and guys were just coming back in pieces. I'm at that stage now. It's like, if I break my hand or something like that goes on, like I can't work, you know, or I can't pick up my kids and play with my kids, or that's just my hand. What if it's my neck? What if it's, you know, what if it's can cut like really bad head injury, you know? And not that I was ever anything I even worried about back in the day. I didn't give a shit about that. So I'm here to fight, and I'll die in there, you know. And that was really how my mind was. Like, I'm prepared. I got my confidence from my preparation, you know. And you can't have any fear. And that was the thing. My coach, one of my first coaches, Jack, says, like, he's very tight, very broken English at that stage, very, very loose. He's like, you scared? You know Muay Thai. You have it in your heart, or you don't, you know. Like, there can be people that are really technically good or talented, you know, but heart is like, you either have it or you don't, you know? And I think that's the most important aspect as a fighter. I think Blair Smith said it like best. It's like a ticker in your head, you know. You either have it or you don't. It's like when times get tough, do you sit down or do you rise, you know, or do you take it on? Like, do you let the fire consume you, or do you harness the fire and use it?
Again, that's an approach you can take to life in general.
Absolutely, and that's
yeah.
where I have taken it into life, and that's
Yeah.
really, you have to,
Yeah.
it's very powerful,
Absolutely.
and it's very positive, but you've got to keep that in a humble aspect where you can't be like egotistical and too overconfident, like I'm not overconfident at all, or confident half the time. It's just, you could be focused and goal orientated, and when you're doing the right things, your confidence from what you're doing is right, you feel good about yourself when you're eating well and doing the right things.
Did you have to change or adjust the way you fight because of that disc?
Fighting, no, but training definitely. So I think, with a back injury or any injury, you got to find the root cause. What caused that injury? Was it an accident, or is it something that's been prolonged for a long time, and it's just like the straw that broke the camel's back? And that's what mine was. It was, and 90% of us with back injuries, it's always the same thing. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. Yeah.
How you sit.
Yep.
How you move. What you eat.
Yep.
How you recover. Are you doing too much? You're doing too little. It's a lot. And us Westerners, shocking mobility, shocking strength in certain areas. And with Muay Thai, we're very strong in some areas, but you're very weak in our glute strength, in our hamstring strength. We get really bad rounded shoulders because your guard's always like this. Yeah. So there's things you got to learn. So once you got your shoulders forwards, putting pressure on your upper back. Once you got upper back pressure, you're going to be curling into your middle back, your lower back. Your glutes aren't strong. You're not going to have any support. So there's all sorts of things I had to learn, and that's how I actually came back from my injury. Was I avoided surgery. I found a really good physio. The aim at the beginning was to get the inflammation down, and then from there was to improve mobility, and then from there was to create strength and improve strength. And I got in touch with a really good strength coach named Teresa Carter, who not only was a professional Muay Thai fighter, so she knows what I do for my sport, but she's a very, very educated strength coach, and she's also a full-time nurse too, or she was a full-time nurse.
Wow.
So she's got a lot of different knowledge. She knows how I move, the body moves. She knows what I need to do every week in the gym, and she knows what I need to do to counteract the things that I'm not doing, and to build strength and a good base around that.
You're spot on when you say movement's so important for Westerners. Like we're so bad at it because our bodies aren't designed to be sedentary. Like we are supposed to be moving. So
and we all sit in chairs.
We all sit in chairs.
Desks and stuff.
And like psychologically as well. When you're moving, you're just psychologically more on fire.
Yeah.
You really are. Like we talked about, guys in early age and mid-20s have to move. Doesn't have to be combat or contact sports, or
get into a gym and do a little bit. Work on something, swim. Play a ball sport with friends.
Yeah, but
whatever
do something
it is
to move and strengthen your body.
Yeah.
There's a Canadian psychotherapist, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said he started taking his training seriously recently because he read results from a study that said it's not your reading and all that kind of stuff that keeps the brain sharp. It's actually keeping the body sharp.
For sure.
That keeps the mind sharp.
Keeping the body moving,
That keeps the mind.
Just that healthy benefits, the blood flow. You're getting blood flow through the body. If you're sitting stagnant and doing that, you're going to feel like shit. You get the body moving, blood flow, sweating, detoxifying, stretching things out.
Yeah.
You're sitting there, you're just going to get older.
You're just going to, absolutely.
Frail,
Here on in, what does your involvement in the sport look like? I mean, obviously you're still going to train, but are you looking at going to a coaching role?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed, I've done a lot of coaching since I was young, we used to hold pads, and sometimes I'd have the younger kids class when I was a teenager, while my coach would have the older teens class. So I've been able to run a class for a very long time. I've coached at a few different gyms around Perth, done seminars and stuff like that, and I PT a fair bit as well, so I do a few PTs from home. I actually train a few father-sons at the moment, so I do really enjoy coaching and doing that, so now I've got more freedom to do that as well, so we'll continue to do that. We've got a really strong stable of fighters at Calsop as well, so I'm looking forward to being able to help them get ready for their fights and prep them up and all that. So I'll definitely stay involved in the sport, and like I said, I enjoy training, so I'll still continue to do a couple of days a week for myself. Like I said before, there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to being able to do, and be able to give more back to others, because it's been hard, because I've had coach roles at times, but I don't like putting on the coach hat as a fighter, because you have to be selfish as a fighter, and I can't really
understand that.
I could never ever really give what I'd like to give to someone if I was to really call myself a coach.
I understand that.
but I've always tried to help the best I can. So just for example, like we got given like cow sock shirts, and my shirt said like Coach Jordan on it, and I couldn't wear it. Like I'm not
Really?
like the coach yet. Like I don't really like. I'm
right?
here working on me, you know, and I feel guilty if I'm wearing this unless I'm actually running a class. And
That's
doing
interesting.
It.
Wow.
So it's just one of those things. Like I want to be able to give what's required.
Yeah.
You know, and that takes time. You know, so I do look forward to that next sort of chapter now. The thing I like about Muay Thai and other combat sports is it's the one thing you have in your back pocket where you go everywhere. You know, you can play soccer, you can play tennis, you know, you can surf, but they're only applicable in those locations, you know. You're going to be happy and healthy and fit from it, yes, but it's not something you can take into real life. And having those skills in your back pocket from a combat sport or a martial art of any kind, you know, it's very helpful. And you see it with young guys as well. A lot of young guys that don't do anything like that are on the streets, they want to prove themselves. They got that attitude, they got that egotistical, aggressive approach, you know, and they're the ones that are going to fight on the street and get in trouble, you know. They're trying, it comes from insecurity, I think.
That's
you know,
deep insecurity.
And
it really does.
You would see it like guys that are like, they know how to fight. They've done what they've done. You know, they've got nothing to prove. They're pretty chilled out guys. You know, and they're pretty quick to want to diffuse something and not get involved unless you're being disrespectful. You know, sometimes don't get me wrong, I'm not one to promote violence or anything like that, but there's sometimes that you can't get away from circumstances. Maybe you're under attack, or maybe you need to help someone out, and having that in your back pocket, it's a very powerful tool, you know.
It really is.
And from that comes confidence and peace as well.
Well, congratulations on a huge career, man.
Cheers.
And best of luck for the future.
It's exciting.
And I look forward to seeing you at the next fight night.
I'll be there. I'll be there on one of these having a chat, or just watching
or
and
just
having
watching.
a beer, you know, or helping out in the corner. So it's there's plenty still going on. So whether I fight again, have a final one in Perth or not, like it's really, I'm not too bothered. It's not something I'm looking at now. But if that was it and I finished at the Mecca at Lumpini, you know, and that's my last fight, then I'm happy there as well. We had a few fighters that have retired now, you know, in Perth, and I think it's a good way to sort of finish, you know. Like I've had a lot of support, especially from friends and family, like for 20 years in the sport, you know, and I think less even for me, I think a lot of them would like to be able to see my last fight and be like, all right, we come to support, you know, and to end it on a nice note. But this is combat sports. Things don't end on nice notes 9 times out of 10, let's be honest. So I'm just focused on cruising at the moment and just enjoying it and getting back into training myself, staying fit and healthy, and then just taking it as it comes.
Best of luck with it, man. Thank you so much, Jordan, for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me. That was good chats.
Thanks again.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.